All right, we're doing a different hat. See how this goes. Different hat, new episode. This would be episode 8. 8 episodes in. We did take a 2-week break for some personal family issues, but
Have you started? You didn't even like.
yeah, I think so. If it sounds good, I was gonna use it, but
Oh, sorry.
I might still be going. Okay, 5, 4. I didn't do the countdown.
That's why I was like, what?
Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, and welcome to the Go There Do That podcast. We are currently on episode 8. We did have to take a 2-week break for some personal family issues, and now we're back. So with this episode, we wanted to discuss, first and foremost, Heather, do you want to introduce this? We have a very special thank you to give out.
Yes. So before we went to Europe, we were also kind of on TikTok trying to like grow our audience a little bit. And so I had an idea to do a t-shirt giveaway. So I gave like 10 clues and people guessed where we were going. And then the first person that guessed was sent a t-shirt, a Go There Do That t-shirt. So the first person that guessed was Ash Hugs. That's how I know her on TikTok. And so we sent her a shirt. And she asked for our address a little bit after that because she had something that she wanted to send us. And normally I don't share our address with strangers, but she had also shared her address with us so that we could send her the t-shirt. So I thought it was pretty safe. But we got it in the mail while we were gone, actually. And it's this really, really cool bear cookie cutter. Like, it's so cute. It's just like the Go There Do That bear. So yeah, it's just very thoughtful gift from a total stranger. I just think that that's the coolest thing ever. There's a note with it too that I haven't read yet.
We were planning on reading this on the podcast, so this is the first time we've opened it.
So I don't know if I'm gonna cry or not. But yeah, super thoughtful. I'm just reading it to make sure it's like okay to share probably. So it says, "Go there, do that. I was doing some spring cleaning and found this. Since it's the same shape as your logo, I figured you might be able to get some use out of it. If not, no biggie. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Love from Michigan. Ash Hug." So that's kind of the sweetest thing ever. Yeah. So thank you for thinking of us. Yeah. I don't
Thank
know.
you, Ash Hugs.
Yeah.
That was pretty wonderful.
I'm not used to, I don't know. It's just very sweet and genuine, and I really appreciate it.
First ever fan mail,
Yeah.
really. I mean, not
Yeah.
expecting it, but it's very much appreciated.
It really does like look just like the logo bear too. Like, yeah.
That's cool.
Stacy might have used this.
We'll be making some
when
fun.
she made the logo.
Yeah, we're making some fun cookies with that.
Yeah.
Those are huge.
It's gonna
Those
make
are
me
big.
get back into baking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Next on this episode's agenda, the episode name is The Last Swiss Chocolate because we have two. Let me see. Get a close up here. 2 Swiss chocolates from Switzerland. We were saving them for a special occasion. And
We
so
gave most of them out.
we did give
And of course, we ate a couple.
ate a couple, but
These are the last two.
these are the last 2.
Should we eat them now or at the end?
I don't know, I'm just gonna hand it to
Okay.
you, and you can do whatever you want.
I'm going to wait.
Okay. But yeah, what does this represent? whatever we want, I guess. I also wanted to talk to you about a recent birthday that we had. You had just turned 30 not too long ago. Heather's birthday was April 24th, so if you haven't told her happy birthday, it's a little late now, but you can still tell her happy birthday. But she is now 30, and I wanted to document her thoughts on that. So now that you've sort of been, thinking a little longer about it, how do you feel? So those are Heather's thoughts on her being 30. But I don't know.
It's funny because I knew you were going to ask me, but also wasn't prepared for the question. Originally, we were going to record this before my birthday, and then it was kind of like symbolic, like the last Swiss chocolate, the last, days in your 20s type of thing. But it's kind of come and gone, like a blip in a timeline, which maybe is what turning 30 is supposed to be like, I will admit that I put more pressure on it than it probably deserved. I guess I've never really been, it's not like I thought I would turn 30 and have an existential crisis or anything, or that anything would really change. But it is just like a significant birthday to celebrate, I guess. But I haven't been like afraid of it or anything.
I mean, just look at what you've done in your 20s.
Yeah, I think that's maybe what, because I have felt a little weird, like I wasn't expecting it, like I wasn't expecting to feel weird, and then I wound up feeling weird about turning 30, which kind of caught me off guard. And I've also not really been able to figure out why it felt weird, because I know it's not like the whole, oh my gosh, I'm 30, my life is over type of feeling. But I think a part of why it's felt weird is because it is like a send-off, kind of. Like, say goodbye to your 20s, whatever. And I just feel like my 20s were pretty great, and it's kind of a hard thing, like a hard chapter to close, even though I know you don't have to close it just because you turn 30, it's just more symbolic. But I don't know, I'm just like so proud of what I accomplished in my 20s, so it's kind of felt like a now what type of thing. I mean, like I started off my 20s in college as a server at Red Lobster, putting my way through college in an abusive relationship before you. Like it started off not so great, but then it just grew into this like flourishing, like I met you and I was still 20, not quite 21. And then from there we've experienced some ups and downs for sure, but overall, sorry, Cece is out and about. But overall, just incredible highs. Not to say we haven't had lows too, but, and then it's weird because it's like, I just turned 30 and I know that we just like got back from Europe and stuff like that, and there's been plenty of really great things happening in our lives, but it's felt kind of low lately just because of, things going on, life happening and stuff. So maybe I just have to make it to 31 and it'll shift, right? Like my 20s?
I don't know. As far as decades go, you don't really have much to reflect on from 0 to 10.
Right. Yeah,
10
that's
years.
true. Yeah.
And then from 10 to 20, you've sort of been on a conveyor belt, mostly like high school, just school. Mm-hmm. And then from 18 to 20, most people have no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. So from 20 to 30, that is kind of the defining moments of like who you are in a way, right? Some
Yeah.
people late start, whatever, everybody's life is different, but from 20 to 30, you're kind of most people are on their own.
It's like your first conscious decade, you know,
Right.
where
Fully
you have like
conscious.
the
Yeah.
freedom to make your own decisions
Hmm.
and yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so some people like don't have as many. I mean, I would say, I'm going to brag, we have created just about every opportunity through ourselves. Like you and I, we've both created this life that we have together. And like I have spent every year, I'm 28 now, but I've spent every year of my 20s with you,
Mhm.
and most likely
Yeah,
all
that's
of them,
true.
right? So
Yeah.
it's crazy to think about, but like when you're investing time into something, why not let it be your soulmate, because
Mhm.
biggest piece of advice from this guy, his name's Brandon. Uh, he said the biggest lie he ever told himself in his life was that as soon as he got married, his life was put on hold. He had to cater to what his partner wanted. Once he was married, like he had to be like, I can't chase my dreams, I can't sacrifice, I can't do these opportunities because I'm with this other person. I have to care about this other person. So why would I take these risks to jeopardize the relationship? But really, if you're taking risks with someone else, that's what makes life even more exciting because you're taking on these challenges not alone, but with somebody else,
Mhm.
right? And I feel like you and I have done that time and time again. And I think whenever you're supposed to, well, 30s are scary. I don't know what that's like yet, but I think a lot of people. We talked to a guy in Albuquerque when we were there for a wedding.
Yeah, like 2 days before I turned 30.
Yeah, right before you turn 30, and he was sort of freaking out in a way. Like it was like feels like death approaching because
Mhm.
it's like, oh no, it's not. I'm not in my 20. You're not a 20-year-old. You're not in your
Yeah.
20s anymore. Like the youth, you think your youth just leaves you
Mhm.
in a way. I think like a lot of people feel like, oh, I need my life together now, I'm 30. Like
Right.
really, there's nothing to be afraid of because the passage of time really only means what you give it. Like is only the only meaning that the passage of time has is the meaning that you give it. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I was trying to say.
Mhm.
But I don't know, seeing the northern lights, paragliding through the Alps in Europe, those are all like those are both too. Like I looked up like bucket list items
Yeah.
for what to do before you die.
Yeah.
Northern Lights is up there, and
Mhm.
also seeing after we've done this. That's what I looked it up. And
Yeah.
a lot of the things that we've already done, seeing America's national parks, like these are all things that people wish, but they think that life is gonna wait for them. There's a quote I heard that um, you're either something. It goes something like this, but you're either marching ahead with fate or you're being drug along by it.
Mhm.
And I think that is a good summary. We've been sort of marching ahead.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what's hard too is just because the way it lined up me turning 30, like we're also kind of like um we don't have any trips in the near future. Like we're going to start camping again, things like that. Things are kind of up in the air. And I was also thinking today, normally for like my entire life since I was 5 years old, this time of year is symbolizing a change, anyways, because I went through school and then I went to college and then I became a teacher. And so this time of year was always like the closing of a chapter, but knowing that a new one is coming because you're starting a new school year, you know, and having those feelings. And then, like, you know, you and I are like planning trips and stuff. And now it's like, I am not teaching anymore. I have a job that's like not changing. I'm not starting a new school year. So it is weird because it's like, do we just keep going? And then, yeah, that's like okay if it's just the same, but it's also just unfamiliar to me to know that the path isn't changing unless I make it change, if that makes sense.
It's scary being in control of your own fate.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, like I think that's what a lot of people are scared of, is like, I'm in complete control of my life at this point. I have, a lot of people have a job, or, like, a lot of unhappiness in this time of people's life. Is it a quarter life? A third?
Well, 25, I think, is quarter life crisis.
Yes.
So I'm past my quarter life crisis, but it's too soon for my midlife crisis.
So this is just turning 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, you should, I think, like I say all the time, just should always celebrate life every single day. They do say age is just a number, but I mean, that means that every day can be a celebration. You know, like, it's just sort of artificial way. We measure time by the sun revolving around the earth, and that's all it is years. And from the day you're born, that's when the clock starts. And I mean, yeah. So you're not scared overall? You're not?
I wouldn't say that I'm scared, and I'm not really worried about like the things that it's like portrayed that you're supposed to worry about when you turn 30. Like, I mean, I got carded the other day.
Nice.
Yeah. So, it's not really about like my looks changing and things like that. It just feels different, and like I don't know what's next. And sometimes the unfamiliar is uncomfortable. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just a little uncomfortable. Yeah.
But I get what you mean. Like, you were sort of on school time for your whole life. Until this is
my first.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
First year without, you're going into the summertime.
Yeah.
Not being a teacher.
Right.
I just realized that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess technically last summer was my first time
you were
not
still
being a teacher, but I ended the school year. Yeah.
You were still teaching though. Like,
and it was still like the close of a chapter into a new one because I'm starting a new job.
So.
And so, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't even think it's really about me turning 30. I think it's more about that it's like my first end of the school year.
First time out of that cycle.
Yeah, the first time out of that cycle.
Whoa.
Since I was 5 years old, yeah.
Whoa. Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about
Yeah, because like, you were like, because I was kind of in a funk, like, when I turned, like, the day I turned 30, a few days after, and I think that I've just recently realized, like, within the past couple of days, that it's not about 30. Yeah.
It's also the most you've talked about it with me.
I know, because I haven't been able to figure out what is happening in my head and why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling.
I just had to get you on camera.
Yeah.
On the podcast.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Well, it's more pressure for me to, like, make myself think about it, I guess, too. I've probably just been pushing it down, but I don't just want to sit here and be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I have to think about it.
Yep. We're always ruminating in ambivalence. That's what I wrote down. I wanted to make sure I said that at some point.
That's your new Ethanism of the week.
Well, because people have been asking me how I'm doing, and that's what I say. I'm like, I'm just ruminating in ambivalence. It's like I have a nothing answer, but it's kind of what a lot of people feel, ruminating, thinking, right? Like stewing on something, deep thought, and then ambivalence is like mixed emotions. So like you can love and hate something at the same time, which is kind of nuts. They say the opposite of love is indifference. So like you can love and hate a situation, right? You can be sad that something's leaving, but happy that something's coming at the same time. So
be excited and afraid.
Yes.
all at once. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's a good way to describe what's been going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So, those are the 4 things that I had written down, but we do need to talk about more things. And I was thinking about getting more into, so I am starting some new books, oddly enough. Like, we just ordered a bunch today, and that's what's strange about saying this whole newness,
like cycle,
everything, because I
a
always
new timeline.
like it's already May,
I know,
which is nuts, but like I always think about what's the next big thing. And right now we don't really have a big upcoming Europe whatever trip. Like right now we're just kind of taking a break. We just got done with our weddings.
I bought ACL tickets.
Oh, that's right. ACL this year is going to be.
There's a good lineup.
Very nice. I am excited for that.
Yeah.
Anyone going to ACL weekend too? We will be there. Look for the hat.
The bucket hat. Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I've told this story I think in our first podcast, but I'm going to say it again. Our neighbor, we don't really talk all that much, but I do say hello to him sometimes. And he asked me once, came up to me across the street, was like, "Hey, have you been to Alaska before?" And I was like, "Yes." "How did you know?" "I haven't told anyone that." And he was like, pointed at his head. He was like, "You wear the hat." And I recognized that you come home every day wearing a hat, and I recognized you from the video. And I was just searching like Alaska videos, like he just likes Alaska.
Right, yeah.
But it was very interesting that he had so that's literally why I wear the hat for the podcast, is because of that story. Because it's, you don't have to know my name. You don't have to know what Go There Do That is.
It's essentially a part of the logo at this point.
I should add a bucket hat on top of the bear.
I have looked into adding like a Go There Do That bucket hat merch item, but I just haven't figured out how to make it work yet.
I would buy all of them.
I know.
Yeah, that is a good idea. Maybe custom. Maybe something. Okay, that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm glad we documented this. We don't have to write anything down that we're saying, because we can just listen back to these good ideas.
Vision board,
Yeah. Also, if whatever platform you're watching this on, just leave a comment to let me know that you're actually like listening, watching, whatever. If it's on Spotify, I'm not sure if you can comment, but just do something, and say if it's a good idea to have bucket hats with the logo on it, because that would be, I know it's a good idea.
Right. I would invest the time into it if I thought somebody cared about it.
Well, apparently we have fans. Somebody sends us a fan mail, so that's pretty incredible.
Thinking of you, mail. Mm-hmm. That's so nice.
Yes. Ash hugs. Thanks again. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But these new books.
Oh yeah, I forgot what we had started talking about.
Mm-hmm. I don't lose track. I don't have ADHD, unlike everyone else in the world.
Okay.
Speaking of ADHD, what is that?
What do you mean?
Well, it's just a hot topic. I feel like it's gained popularity in the sphere of millennials, you know, and Gen Z. Who are the younger people?
Are we allowed to talk about ADHD?
What do you mean? We're both diagnosed.
Okay, I was like, I don't want to like out you, but I also don't want to just be talking about it and then people are like, oh, everybody talks about, like, it's like we do have some credibility.
Well, that's the thing. But
I didn't want to be like, Ethan, you are fully diagnosed and so am I.
Mm-hmm. I still know we need to talk about the books. I said ADHD on purpose to get off track again. It's kind of a joke. But there's just so many methods. Like everybody's born with like flaws, or you get them along the way, right? Everybody has something that bugs them about themselves, and ADHD could be one of those things. So there's methods, cheat codes, brain tricks that you can do with yourself to help you focus, right? like, because you always want to be the master of your own mind, right? And so, what are those? What are some
Yeah.
things that you do?
I think the difference is that I think anybody, can like find cheat codes to their brain and how it works. I think the difference is that a cheat code might work for 3 weeks and then doesn't work for me anymore, or a cheat code might work for 2 days and doesn't work for me anymore. I have to constantly find cheat codes because there's not one that fixes it.
There's not a God mode
No.
cheat code.
I have not found it yet. If it exists, there's, yeah.
Well, that would take all the fun out of living.
Yeah.
If you could just figure out, if you knew everything that was going to happen ever, you could just do whatever you wanted to all the time. If there weren't any little challenges.
I also think
you
that
know?
it's possible that people without ADHD don't have to find cheat codes for their brain. Like, I don't know.
Are there perfect people that live out there with zero mental disorders, or like, I'm looking for that. I think it's that movie The Joker, but it's a good quote from it. It's like, the thing about having a mental illness is everybody expects you to live as if you don't have one.
Yeah, I've always
Right?
thought that's interesting, like hearing, about neurotypicals. This is what a normal brain does. This is what blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't know if I've ever met anyone that fits that description.
Yeah, do we have one of those brains? Has there ever been one of those brains in
Yeah.
history?
Maybe it's just that I haven't surrounded myself with that, but yeah.
It's a very unhealthy thing that scientists do.
What?
They create this ideal human. Like, this is what a perfect human would do, and do what the question has never asked. Does the perfect human exist? Like, this is what the typical brain does, but like, have they ever found a person with a typical brain that just operates 100% as if, like, is there a standard, to how people should act? Because it just depends on where you are, and like,
Yeah,
depends on so many things.
we have conflicting views on ADHD for sure. Me and you.
Well, I'm saying, is there a perfect brain?
Because you're always trying to explain it away. But I think sometimes, and I don't want to like overstep or speak for you, but from my perspective, sometimes I think it's like you are, we both have ADHD, but our experiences have been different with it.
Our brains are different?
Right. Okay. Okay, you're a guy and you were diagnosed in like college, right?
Correct.
Yeah. But you're also like you were a boy growing up through school, so it's kind of like expected for you to be a little, off the rails a little bit. Like I've joked before about like, if I had had you in my classroom, like you would have drove me crazy. But it's kind of like accepted a little bit. And so I think you've had more time to like come to terms with it, and then so you're starting to think a little bit different, like, oh, does this even exist? I don't know. For me, I have been diagnosed for like a year now, and spent a lot of time inside my own head and constructing what I know I'm supposed to act like in public, and then pretending to be a white tiger in private.
What did you just say?
No. That's just an extreme example of when I was really little. But
imagination.
Just, yeah, like stifling myself for my whole life. And then in college, probably around the same time that you were diagnosed, I was also told by a doctor that I was seeing that I probably had ADD. At the time, he called it ADD because it wasn't just established to be ADHD at that point. But because I was a senior in college, he said that the hard part was over, so he was just going to go ahead and treat me for anxiety instead. And then I spent 2 years on antidepressants for anxiety medicine that were terrible. And the whole time it was ADHD. And it did not get the hard part was not over. Like, just because I was done with college. And so I think I've had a little bit of a different experience with it. So sometimes when you're like, oh, it doesn't exist, and I understand that you're just exploring like your philosophy ahead and you're just like to explore different ideas, and you don't like for things to be black and white anyways, which is something I love about you. But for me, sometimes I'm like, it hurts my feelings when you're like, it doesn't exist, because I've just recently found a reason for a lot of things that I've struggled and hid for like a really long time.
Okay, well, I apologize for hurting your feelings, but also you fell into my trap because you have read a book called ADHD.
Yes, it's called ADHD.
In women? What's it called?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So we are actually talking about books. How was that book?
Yeah, it's sneaky. Yeah, it was really good.
What'd you learn? Like, don't describe the book. Like, what did you take away from it? Like, okay, I don't know coping methods for your situation inside of a woman's brain while having ADHD, because it's often misdiagnosed or explained away because women are better at hiding their mental stuff, because a lot of the time women are told, oh, it's just this.
Just sit
like,
there and look pretty.
Let me speak for you, right? When you're like, hey, I can't, this is what's wrong with me, or this is why, these are my problems. And they're like, it's actually this, instead of you're leaning towards like, I've done my own research, I've done all these things, right? Like you said, you were given antidepressants for, it's probably just this.
Yeah.
And they were kind of dismissive of it.
Yeah, it's easier to treat you for anxiety
And so
ADHD.
after you, like, I think that book helped you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so how did it help you?
So I think I'll look it up later, but I think it's called Women, ADHD and Women, a Radical Guide. Something, I don't know. But it is like a workbook along with it. And so it just helped me realize and connect dots in things. Because I mean, I've like second guessed myself on like if I really am, or if it's just like a made up thing or whatever. Is this something I really struggled with forever? And it helped me kind of dig back in like really far back. And it's like, oh yeah, this has been a part of me for the whole time. And then also taking back some control of unmasking, as they call it, like, and just like being, not feeling so guilty and like ashamed of who you are, because I think that happens a lot. And it talks about that in the book, that like it's some women with ADHD have a lot of shame and like guilt, because you know that you're struggling and that things are not easy for you, but you're just like holding it back and choking it down, and you're so frustrated. And then you're also mad at yourself, because like, why can't I just do this thing that like women are supposed to be able to do, and like being organized. I am ironically considered by people to be a very organized person.
I think you are.
Like my bosses, I'm very organized to them. Ethan, I'm very organized to you. My friends see me as organized. But the reason that I am so organized is because, like we talked about earlier, it's like a work around my brain, because I know that if I don't like break my back making this organizational system, it will blow up. And yeah. And then I have to change the organizational system every couple of months, because the system I've created, my brain doesn't like it anymore and it won't work anymore. So it's just a lot of work. I'm like, I don't know. But it helped me unpack some of the like shame, I guess, of struggling and not saying anything and feeling like you're supposed to have it all together. I mean, honestly, even if you don't have ADHD, it's a really great book for like women to read, because a lot of it is like struggles that women have just being women and having these expectations, from society and like all around you. But yeah, it was really good to work through. And at the end, you like make kind of like a mission statement for yourself and like start to try to like identify like who are you at your core, because a lot of for me, a lot of the ways that I would describe myself like a year or so ago would not be positive character traits, because I like see myself as selfish, or I see myself as forgetful or clumsy, and like all these negative character traits, because those are all the things that I'm trying to stuff down, because I kind of know that about me. But it helps you identify the positive character traits that you have too. Like, I'm really creative. I'm a really good problem solver, because I have to solve problems all the time within my own brain, and things like that. So, yeah, it was good.
That is good. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of the time, I think a part of once you get told you're incorrect about this feeling that you're having by some authority figure, either it be a doctor or a teacher or a parent or whoever, right? Somebody who's supposed to have authority over you, that you're supposed to be learning, respecting your elders, right? And once they say you're wrong about this feeling that you're having, you're like, okay, so
You don't trust any of your feelings.
I can't believe this. At least that thing that you were told you were wrong about, right? And it
Yeah.
could lead to other, like, oh, I was stupid with that thing. I've been wrong before, so I'm wrong about all these other things.
You stop trusting yourself. Yeah.
And I think most of the time, in a more patriarchal society, like, like dudes in authority, whatever, guys, male, masculine, blah, 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 that's more respected, as people say. I put quotations up, right? Like, because men are more assertive and women like to say, I'm going to pick my words carefully,
Yep.
but well, men can be assholes.
Okay.
And when they tell you that you're wrong, you're like, oh, shoot, they're louder than me, or they're, but you know what I mean? So what I'm getting at is, once you hear that, women are more prone to believe it. And that is why I think it's so important for women to not take that one opinion as truth, because there could be another person out there that you talk to and they're like, oh my gosh, same me, like totally. I've also been having this problem, right? And that's why communication, being open and honest about your feelings, is very important. But you can be scared to share those things once you're told incorrect, wrong. And so you're scared to ever do it again because you've been hurt before once you tried to bring it out of you to be honest about this thing. And so I think that happens a lot of the time. And there is like there's a book about it, right? Like, hopefully someone hears women, ADHD in women.
I know. I wish I could.
Well,
I'll just look it up while you're talking.
Yes, I'll keep talking. I'll try to keep talking. Yeah, like, hopefully somebody else out there will hear this or hear what you said, and maybe there's somebody else that has been struggling with the same issue, not just ADHD, but like anything that you have been told you were wrong about. Your feelings don't really lie. Like, you can't, when you're feeling something, it's unhealthy to ignore it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's a reason behind it.
Yeah, there's a human reason why you felt this thing. So if you are human, you should definitely listen and reflect on it.
Okay, it's called A Radical Guide for Women with ADHD
A Radical Guide for Women with ADHD.
by Sari Solden and Michelle Frank.
Okay. Radical. It's why? What makes it radical? Is just like because they're talking about it.
No, it's. I think that I'm also not good at like remembering things. So the radical part I think comes from. It does ask you to like think differently than likely how you've been kind of constructed to think about yourself and ADHD. So it's radical in that sense. And like, you are going to have to work at it. Like, it's a workbook. Like, you write in it, you have to, like, you have kind of like homework for yourself.
Homework,
yeah. And it's looked at from a different lens than I think some other books have been written from. I mean, it's two women. I can't remember. I know one of them at least has ADHD, and they're like psychologists, and so it's written by women. So
yeah,
they know a thing or two.
So, some cheat codes that I have done for emotions and things. I just kind of make up my own silly Ethanisms.
Yeah.
What is it? Mentioned this before, but like, you listening to emotions is one of the hardest things ever because, right, like I was saying, there's a reason why, and there's something I haven't read a book on it yet, but it's called Carl Jung, getting into the anima and the animus, and so this is just he's a very spiritual, like collective unconscious type of fella, and it's very interesting. And I'm just ordered some books by him. So I'm excited. And so this is what I'm going to say about it, what I think he's trying to say. And I'm going to read stuff about it and then see if I'm right. Maybe we'll do a follow-up podcast on it. Maybe we'll just do a book club podcast. I don't know. But whatever, anima animus. So deep within us, there's something called, like, once you explore all the things underneath you, like the shadow, like, of yourself, which is like they say the devil and angel on your shoulder, right? But like the inner voice that says, hey, you're stupid or something, right?
Yeah.
Or, hey, you're actually not a good person, or like the conflicting point of view, but also like there's things that you know about yourself that you have negative qualities, right? Like everyone is flawed.
Yeah.
So in order to recognize that, you have to confront that shadow part of you, right? And so that is typically seen as the same gender as you, like my shadow would be from like a masculine perspective, and yours would be feminine, anima animus. So for me, it's called the anima, and that would be embracing, because everybody has had a woman figure in their life at some point. Everyone's met a woman. It takes a male and a female to create a human. So there is that woman, like,
for now.
What do you know that I don't?
Well, technology.
Heather's you're working on making test tube children. Anyways, yes. So right now, as far as human biology goes, yes, male and female. But it's about embracing
both sides.
Yes, the feminine side, and it's difficult to say for some men because that means being open with your emotions and not shutting them out, because you can be like, oh, that's in school growing up, literally an insult was, what are you, a girl, when you're crying? When you're crying,
right?
Like, oh, you're just a girl. Like, that is an insult to boys.
Yeah.
And so then you're like, I'm not allowed to show emotion. I'm not allowed to cry. I'm not allowed to smile in photos. Like, there's worse insults, right? But I won't say them. But that I've been told, right?
Yeah.
So it's about embracing that side of you for a man. And so,
like, what's wrong with being like a girl?
Right.
Yeah.
Because there are positive qualities of a female,
Mm-hmm.
and there are negative. But they say the Mona Lisa is the apex, the ultimate example of a man. He drew himself as a woman.
Oh.
The Mona Lisa is Leonardo
Yeah.
da Vinci. He drew himself what he would look like as a female.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes. So he's expressing himself through art, and
Yeah.
it's showing that, like, what would I don't know. It's like a mirror image, but also you're looking back at the, that's what I heard, but I'll know more once I read more. But for women, the animus is the assertiveness, right? Like, whenever you're telling someone that you have ADHD, you're like, no, I know I'm correct. It's not this. Like, I know, like, whenever.
Like standing up for yourself, not being polite over.
Yes.
Yeah, because that is definitely a thing that we're like taught is to be polite.
Yes.
Don't hurt someone's
You're a
feelings.
lady. Ladies, women don't do that.
Ladylike, yeah.
Right, yeah. It's not ladylike for you to do that, right? It's the same thing. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Being ladylike. Like,
Yeah.
what?
But sometimes it's good to be rude and be assertive. Yeah.
It's unbecoming for you to talk back. Like, what? Yeah. And so growing up, like, I've heard a lot of those things. There's one expression, the husband is the house band, right? Like, that is, the husband is the one that keeps the house together. Like, I don't really think so. Like, there's two halves.
But it shouldn't be the woman holding it together too. Like, that's kind of the joke is like, oh, that's not really true. The woman holds it together. But like, it should be both. It should be a partnership.
Right. 50-50.
Yeah.
And that's the whole duality of everything is it's a balance, and it's difficult to split anything down the middle. Like, you're supposed to have yourself 50-50. Like, you're supposed to recognize the good in life the same as the bad in life. Like, it's all a part of the central idea of life. Just like love, between two people, it's 50-50. Like, if one person's putting in all the effort, then it becomes meaningless, right? And it's like you're giving as much as you take, and that's what balances everything out. And so I think that book will be good.
Yeah.
But
I think so.
Yeah. But was me trying to tie it into the ADHD stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, because that, like, I think that women are great and men are great, and you don't have to, like, hate the other one. Like, I can be happy that I'm a woman and confident that I'm a woman and love that I'm a woman and not think that you're a piece of crap just because you're not also a woman.
Yes. And I think that's so yeah, that's good that you don't think I'm a piece of crap. Yeah, it's difficult though to, like, come to realize, because that's what a lot of people, I don't know how somebody, because you read a lot on them online. Online isn't a real place. Like, it's fake.
Yeah.
But there are people who bring it into real life, and they say, like, hey, all women are bad, or, I asked a girl out and she said no.
Yeah.
Oh, why don't women?
There's sweeping generalizations for every category.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's similar on the other side. Yeah. I always thought, like, whenever toxic masculinity became a thing, more and more, like, more recognized, right? It is a real thing. But is there positive masculinity?
Right. But I think that's where it's like, I think that's where we, like, failed in that, because there are things in society that are considered masculine that are, like, not okay, but it didn't. I think that we started to blur the lines between, like, these behaviors that are not okay, and then, like, that men are just disgusting creatures,
I mean, men can be gross.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gross things about being a dude.
Yeah.
But I have to deal with it, and I'm not going
Well,
to
we have to deal with it too.
Well, I'm not going to try to make it anyone else's problem,
Yeah, but some people do. That's the problem. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what are what were you getting at though? Like, that's a lot of people just kind of shut down the whole half of the conversation with men.
Well, and I think that happens all the time where it's like, well, and like as a person in a category that's being attacked, like if I were you and I was a man and you're hearing all these things about men and how terrible they are, it does start to blur the line where it's like it's hard to differentiate between those characteristics being bad and that you are bad because you're a man. Does that make sense?
I'm going to fact check myself after this, but in 1972, I believe it was, 15% more men got higher education degrees than women, right? That's a big difference. And then today, now, 17% more women get degrees than men. But there was a thing called Article 9 that got passed that helped women, get higher education. Back in 1972, they're like, oh, crap, women aren't getting the education they need. Like, it's unfair. But then now, less men get degrees than women because it's like the scale kind of tipped in a different way. And that's what I think is interesting. I'm not like saying nobody deserves anything, but like it's sort of like an unrecognized thing, because if men complain too much a lot, it's similarly dismissed whenever it's like, life is hard, and it's like, buckle up, buddy, this is the rest, get ready to pay taxes, like I got a job, I've been working this job for 30 years, like you have no excuse to complain, like I'm better than you, because a lot of men, the one-upmanship comes it's everywhere, right? It's like, I'm better than you, so you need to shut up.
I had to deal with it. So
yes, well, it's more of like a power domination type of thing that men like to try with each other, and that's very toxic. I think when it's like dismissive in that way, where it's like, hey, like men aren't allowed to talk about their emotions, and it's like, hey, I need help with this thing, and it's like, okay, but do you really? Because there's other people that need help, buddy. And it's like, okay, but like my problem still exists, and so then you feel ashamed, and a lot of people can, well, it's like comes into the whole talking about your emotions thing too. So you can't do it with everybody, though. You don't want to be too complainy, but this is also my podcast, so I can talk about whatever.
Well, I think it's just like hard to be a person. Like we all have things, and
So the whole example of this conversation is that this is a conversation between two people who do not, there's no way I could understand what you go through with women with ADHD and vice versa, right? And so I think that's...
Or somebody there's no way for me to understand somebody who's listening to this and is like, y'all are stupid. Like, I have it. Like, it's hard for me and you don't understand. Like, so, I won't. Like, I can't ever understand somebody that's not me.
So I think that's the tricky balance of humanity, is like, yes, I have an issue, you have an issue. It's not about who's suffering worse. I think it's about like who can understand who more, right? That's the real competition that you need to have. Instead of like, my problems are worse than yours. It's like, oh shoot, I'm trying to understand. I want to try harder than you to understand what you're going through. Right? That's the real competition I think we need to have. Right? Because there's a lot of institutions.
And not dismiss people.
Yes.
Like,
right. Because, yes, like the whole, it starts at the breakfast table when you're growing up. It's like, finish your food. There are starving kids in Africa that would love to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, now I have to worry about all of Africa. I'm 8 years old. Like, what?
Also, I'm full.
Yes. It's like, I'm listening to myself. I'm full. I can't eat that. And it's like, no. But, that comes from Great Depression era type of thinking. Like, we do live in abundance, yes. As Americans, we're very lucky to be able to have what we have. And at the same time, suffering is all relative. And that's what sucks about trying to understand is like, hey, I'm a dude and I struggle, and then you're a woman and you struggle, but that doesn't mean we're not both
It doesn't
struggling.
cancel. One doesn't cancel
Yes.
the other one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is inequity and disparity between all walks of life. But I think the most important thing is trying to understand from somebody else's point of view.
Yeah.
Does that only come with experiencing that person's
Right.
struggle?
Truly, yeah.
Truly, yes. But also, between me and you, I can never be a woman. Not be born a woman and think in the way that you're thinking, right? Like, that's literally impossible.
You haven't been through the same experiences I have.
Yes. Because, yeah, I could try my best. Like, I could try to insert myself. I could live as a homeless person for a year. But me having the knowledge, like, if I put myself in that situation, that's different than being forced into that situation, right?
Right.
Because that's sort of like undercover boss type stuff where you're like, oh, they're going to work a minimum wage job for 12 hours.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but like, do they know what it's like to try to pay rent? Do they know what it's like? They don't.
Yeah.
So they should just try to understand instead of say, hey, look at me.
Most people just want to be heard.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So how do we do that? Hear people.
Just listen.
Brevity is the soul of wit.
Knowing when to stay quiet.
Yeah.
Is that what that means?
That's important. So, unless you have a podcast, then you can't be too quiet because that's the point of a podcast is talking.
Like, so basically we need to, shut up and stop talking.
No, we're just, it's just a discussion. So, I don't know. I think we were on to something there, though. Maybe not. We don't know what we're talking about, honestly. There's no way to experience
it's like
everything.
Stressful. Like, I'm scared to say like the wrong thing and say something, like have something that I say be taken a different way than I mean it.
Hot takes with Heather. Yeah.
Yeah. But that comes, I don't know.
That's why it's good to know more words, because intention is everything, but like explaining yourself is one of the hardest things to do in the world.
Yeah.
There's zero chance for anyone ever to truly understand exactly how I'm feeling in the time of feeling it. That's why art is so powerful, because you could just like do this little painting on the wall and people are like, I get it. I get exactly what you're saying. That's what I try to do with my videos, right? It's like the feeling that I had while I was there. It's like, I'm not going to try to be like, oh, look at us. We just traveled up a mountain. It's like, just try to feel what we experienced. And that's the best way to understand is feeling.
Yeah.
And sometimes words are just a unit of measurement for description. And a picture is worth 1,000 words. So, save time and create something.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to explain it. Don't understand it, feel it. Also, another good thing. If you could feel something. I did hear that. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know. Maybe that's like what heals. Like art is what has the potential to like heal people and like the world.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to like understand something.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, hierarchy of needs, how high up is art on that scale,
Well, maybe
right?
it should be higher.
Yeah.
That pyramid is old.
I say we live in abundance, but they say there was a Buddhist monk that said that any child who dies of starvation should be seen the same as murder in the world, anywhere in the world. If one person dies because they starved to death, should be the same as murder. And if we start treating it that way, we start to be like, oh crap, we need to be more heightened and aware that there are people who out there that are like, oh, I didn't finish my food this morning, but like, what can I actually do later on? There's a guy who gave a motivational speech. Jello Jobs is when I saw your old student.
Oh.
Yeah. So he heard this too. But he was in prison, and then he was out of it, and he was giving a speech. It's called Jello Jobs. It's these children adolescent youths who, they still have time to like turn their life around, right? Like it's like a one scare, and they're too young to, they're, not adults yet, so they can, kind of, yeah. Anyways, young people who have kind of been on a.
I still don't understand why.
Well,
My
you don't
old
have
student
to.
was there then.
That was
the sweetest thing in the world.
That was the core idea behind it, right? But then they've expanded beyond that.
Yeah,
and now it's just
to kind
youth.
of like be like a youth thing.
It's just a mentorship type thing now.
Because as soon as you said that
right.
you saw him, I was like, why?
Oh, right.
Why is he there? He would write poems, like the most beautiful poems in 3rd grade. Teachers don't have favorites, but.
But a cool thing that this guy said, I don't remember his name, but he had like a nickname that he went by. But anyways, the message is what's important to me right now is he said, you always think that you want to get to the point where you can afford that nice car that you wanted. But what if you got to the point where you could afford to buy that nice car for someone else? Right? So, yes, you can do like just, I want a nice car. Anybody can get, a lot of people can get a loan or whatever. But like, what if you get to the point where you can be charitable to give the people the things that you've always wanted, right? And that's what everybody should strive for, is working hard enough on yourself to where once you're not above people, right? Because you are looking behind, right? You're looking at the other people who are like wanting and needing, and it's like, hey, I'll pull you up. Instead of being like crabs in a bucket, when you throw a bunch of crabs in the bucket, you don't need to put a lid on it, because when a crab tries to crawl out of it, they pull each other down. Instead of that, what is the opposite of that? Just pull each other up, uplift each other.
Yeah.
Be the rising tide that raises all the ships, Yeah. That's a good way to live. Talking about it's easy, but all I can do is talk about it right now. And that's what I think I'm working so hard to do, is share the feelings of what it's like to see more of the world. Where I come from is a place of stagnation. The way I was raised, right? Where I was raised, there's not a whole lot of opportunity. And it was difficult to get out of that position growing up. But once you're out of it, I think I like to try to think, and it's up to other people to decide. But sharing these experiences, and I just want to say, like, it's possible to come out of your situation, like, right? And with you and me, it's possible when you find love, right? And that's just our example, but like a partnership. But there's always people who are willing to help, because I owe it to dozens of people in my life that have helped me get to the point I'm at, and they did it because
without expecting anything in return.
And so I always say, you remember me saying, I would say this when I was still in college. I was like, I know that I'm never going to be able to pay these people back the same way that they, what they gave to me. But what I can do is give to others in the same way that I was given to by others. Okay. Yeah. I think that's a good summary. Am I doing that now? Let me know below in the comments. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But so I'm saying this because in my life right now, there are some very not good things. Like the reason we had to take 2 weeks off. And I did mention this during Ethan's intermission podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it now. But yes, my mother has cancer and she is in hospice currently. And so despite all of these things, I still feel it's important to express what I'm feeling during the time of me feeling it, because I know there's other people who have similar experiences, but I want to be brave enough for myself to confront these feelings and walk through them. But only I can do that. And it's just like, I might cry here.
It's all right.
Well, you didn't bring it up. I did. It's when I was walking one night and I was thinking about how we lost Danny. And I always say you can choose your arena when they say you struggle with emotions, right? You fight conflicting with emotions. Mm-hmm. But you can choose your arena on how you want to struggle with them. And I think that's my cheat code for dealing with these things. I was walking and I started feeling it's a catharsis, all these feelings coming up at once.
Bubbling up, yeah.
Yes, and it's perfectly healthy to let this, you can't be like, oh, nope, I'm going to go start drinking. I'm going to go do that. I was by myself. They say, who are you alone in a room in the dark with just your thoughts? Mm-hmm. And that's a question not a lot of people can answer. But I like to do that to myself, it's like a reality check, like just to make sure there's nothing there, right? And so I knew that I needed to feel these things that I was feeling after we lost our precious Danny. And I felt all this bubbling up, and I started ugly crying on this walk. And I knew as I was feeling it that I needed to just keep moving forward. Because if you love someone and you lose them and they loved you too, would they want you to stop living? Mm-hmm. And I wrote in my journal about this. The end of someone else's story is just as important as the middle of someone else's, right? So I kept walking despite me feeling like sometimes you want to just cuddle up and cry, mm-hmm. and sometimes that's okay to do.
Yeah.
But I just know that life, like I said earlier, was it fate? You're either marching forward with fate or it's dragging you along, mm-hmm. And I would rather be marching forward. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but yeah, that's what I'm in the middle of right now, though.
Grieving Danny.
Well, grieving Danny, yes, but then also, family.
Yeah.
Like, it's tough to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Losing a loved one.
Yeah.
And losing my mother is a whole big heavy thing. Mm-hmm. And I say the air is more heavy, but that weight is called life. Mm-hmm. And with all the immense joys that I've had in my life, it's only fair to me to be feeling all of these sufferings and all this pain too, because there would be no joy without suffering. There would be no life without death, right? Mm-hmm. And it super sucks.
Yeah.
But I'm very thankful for all the things that we have experienced through Go There, Do That. Mm-hmm. Because without it, I would probably be
at a different place,
in worse shape.
Yeah.
But I just know that there's so much beauty in the world. Mm-hmm. With as much pain as there is, there's always a reason to keep going because I've seen it. And that's what Go There Do That is about.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to end the podcast right there.
Well,
Oh, right. We have
speaking of beauty in the world,
one last joy.
we have one last little piece
Oh,
of
goodness.
our Swiss adventure.
Yes. This is from Gruyeres.
Yeah, our favorite place in Switzerland.
Our favorite place in Switzerland. This is where we bought them. You can go ahead.
Oh, I was going to cheers.
Oh. Good grief. All gone. No more. But
new things will come.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the end of a chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And the start of a new one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. I guess we'll talk to you later. See ya next time. We will actually have our first guest on the podcast, which is very exciting. He's a very good friend of mine. Stay tuned, and we'll catch you next time.